Cold Beans Challenge, episode 9. Alright, well, I've sort of got into this now. I don't really find it that hard, to be honest, because I know there's a willful moral part of me that says that, like, every time I make a bit of progress with this, something else feels some slight relief from something negative they were previously having to deal with for so long. And you know, the other feelings that I experience by eating meat, eating cheese and dairy are kind of like superficial, aren't they? It's just so tasty that you don't think or feel about other things in your life. And that's precisely what consumption does, is make you more careless. So you just sort of do that at the expense of other things who never get the same taste out of being eaten, do they? So I don't think it's that hard, really, once you get into the swing of it, because I know if I see suffering occur, I hate it, I really don't like it, I want it to stop for them. That's well worth more than it continuing and me being a blind consumer who doesn't really experience life properly. And that's how you guys are going to feel once you get into it as well. In the oncoming gradual future, we're going to conquer this. Because essentially we eat our lives as they occur simultaneously, and we find limits every day of wanting to do something more and simply can't, because physics have just gone missing internally between everyone. Yeah. Something though, you know, this very body I'm in, this is the primary body that's suffered the most. I mean, I've given the most and taken the most. You know, I've given the most positive and I've taken the most negative. It's just something that says, if I want to say myself to the priority of whatever that means, to a feeling and a reaction, it's right up to the 6,000 years, to the moment of finished, that I have to live with an overhanging negative that says I have just done and you guys are doing, at my expense, something that makes me feel unresolved, to connect with everything with no weight. Yeah. I'm beginning to get a bit suspicious about what Arabic culture might mean to some of the excess of the world, because lately in the woke generation, the essential drug dealers who don't want to try harder for their money have got you saying some things in politics from a high detachment point, not that they aren't a high detached point, to sort of show sympathy for the wrong people, maybe, because it fuels their substitute empires of superficial simple feelings for ones they just don't have otherwise in advanced care or commitment to others. So I think some of that's going to come undone in the next 10 years. You're not going to be able to say you're good unless you are more. The other one, which I don't really like, but I think I've been programmed to say I don't like it, is what is the realities of the first world to the third world in terms of oldest resources, Adam and Eve or whatever sort of era. What actually are third world countries to live in when you don't observe them from the first world on telly or whatever? What else do they still retain that the first world doesn't get? Through Kronos and Rhea, introducing people to consumption to fuel their own habits, and needing other people to do it in trend for them to continue to do that. Is it fair to say that the third world, the roots or whatever, consistently have a version of the story they've been saying for ages that leaves things out of realism that they've actually experienced, and they still run with these stories for the convenience of their consumption habit, to traverse it as the event goes on. Saying, are Indian people really moral? Are East Asian people as a heart is constantly moral? African people moral? Jamaican people moral? Arabic people moral? How moral actually are they then to know some of this stuff and not care to say? We're gonna know that the woke generation or whatever all have some space to live away from it. It isn't new. They might have actually lived an easier existence in terms of comfort, and actually, a lot of the Western world is what really fibres things to continue, and their immense efforts, like I said, Biden and Trump if you want, are actually sort of ones that don't make it into the language of these easier passenger type people, to be what you hear about on your internet. Now television just moves to the internet, typically because the internet can just be sort of interacted with by less official people, less committed people to the actual continuity of existence. It's a bit of a cesspit for excuse behaviour, for the convenience of this comfort they're so addicted to, the costs of life forms, huge prices of labour, anything from pain to isolation to spectrum. So yeah, I think the first world is where the event says everything that's happened. More accurately, it's just we can't get the voice back from the third world back yet, or people that live in these sorts of countries and ignore it really, and just take drugs and speak louder than people 7 days a week about stuff they don't know about. I have just gone through some of that because I have no other option on antibiotics, so I have to do that. And if I'm going to leave the centre of the planet as a resource, whoever's using me is going to want me on their doorstep. With any difference, it's all quite slick. Me thinking Brighton, Bristol, and Camden are like colourful, wonderful places to live. They're not really, are they? They just use the resources of the world. Right here in England, the greatest giver of any country, and sort of just don't attach sense of feeling to it because they're so high. Of talking by talking about things backwards, to such a detachment that their bodies don't care anymore for the greater issues of the world. Well, I'm quite sure I'm sort of right about that. And things like racism and stuff are a bit of a ploy for people to still get away with worse behaviour and not criticise these people for their ongoing behaviour that they normalise by having such a comfort to it that they don't feel discomfort of. We do. I still can't give any marks out to how you'd express that, but when you're in distress and labour, having to fight these problems all the time, you may use a few racial slurs and stuff, because you don't really have breath or space to say it another way. But we'll get more advanced on it. True good will prevail, and bad will become the minority as uncompression occurs to the finite point.